My grenade's missing the bit. Oh, there it is.
Oh no, you pulled the pin. It's all over for Max and Stacy.
I noticed looking at this 3D printed Bitcoin grenade from Cloaks.
Crypto Cloaks.
That there's actually a hole there for like a pin right there. No detail was too small for this fine piece of craftsmanship. I don't know what they cost over there at Crypto Cloaks, but I got 3 of them. I figure I need another 10,000 before I mount my assault on, someplace. Any place will do. I don't really care where, but you hit them hard.
Max likes to hit them hard. That is true. And you know what? I'm going to read you a line from The Clash, because some people out there, many people out there, in fact, most people out there are working for the Clampdown. So this is, I think it was Jack Mallers who quoted them, right? Like saying, are you working for the Clampdown? And I'm going to quote you a line from it in reference to Max Keiser on stage. Let fury have the hour. Anger can be power. Do you know that you can use it? And this is referring to Max on stage, looking not like the Clash, but Johnny Rotten, and saying Bitcoin is punk, permissionless, DIY, anarchy, primal, essential.
Right, yes. The Clash and the Sex Pistols and punk. Punk was DIY, do it yourself. Punk was permissionless. When the president of El Salvador decides to just go with Bitcoin, that's very punk. He's a punk. And when he just puts photos up on the Twitter about, here's our energy company, here's a drone shot, and here we are repurposing for Bitcoin mining, and here's the volcano, this is very punk. This is what permissionless looks like. This is what freedom looks like. Bitcoin is freedom. And that's something that took a while for people to understand. People were mired in this stupidity about transactions and number of transactions and speed of transactions. And that gave us 20 or 30 of these shit coins that are still so stupid. Ethereum, Cardano, XRP. They're literally dog shit. They're so fucking stupid. They don't do anything. They're worthless. And you can draw a direct line from January 3rd, 2009 to El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as their monetary standard in 2021. That's a straight line. Everything else in between, every other shitcoin, every other personality, all the John McAfee's, et cetera, they're all meaningless.
All of them. And so we're going to go into 2 aspects of this. We're going to describe the clampdown and what that means and what that meant to the Clash. But we're also going to describe the Sex Pistols, because they were first, right? But first I want to remind people, like when people are complaining about what Max being punk as fuck on stage, like, and that this is a bad look for Bitcoin and, I want to dump my Bitcoin. Well, I'm going to read you something that the guys who own this video clip that I can't show therefore because it would get taken down from YouTube. But if you go to YouTube and you look for Swearing Sex Pistols Interview, Today Show Thames 1976. One of Thames Television's most controversial moments, the infamous Sex Pistols interview that appeared on the Today program, first transmitted on, I think, January 12th, 1976. John Lydon, a.k.a. Johnny Rotten, and Steve Jones' 4-letter outburst made front page headlines and national outrage. But these outbursts propelled the band to stardom, making them household names. So they were like hounded by the press in terms of just like, this is vile, corrupting our youth. Everything about them is horrible. We must deplatform them. We must get rid of them. And yeah, they became superstars.
Right. It was like Chuck Berry or Little Richard. And then everything between Chuck Berry and the Sex Pistols was kind of meaningless. I mean, there's a straight line between Chuck Berry and the Sex Pistols, right? So that's rock and roll. That's what it's all about. So it's, all I've been doing for 10 years in Bitcoin, I've always maintained a punk aesthetic, as anger is a force, as I've said many, many times on stage. When you go into a room of Silicon Valley people who are charlatans, like an Elon Musk is a fucking charlatan piece of shit. That's why that rallying cry of fuck Elon, we're not selling, resonated globally. That's why we're doing our tour, the Fuck Elon tour, which we now have a date. It'll be July 8th in Austin, Texas. The venue will be announced shortly. And we're going on this tour because it's time. And people, I think, understand. It took me. I'm happy that finally people understand that Bitcoin means freedom. The technology is great, and the cypherpunks are great, and there's a lot of great applications, and there's a lot of great companies, and that's all great. But the key is that it's freedom. For a country like El Salvador, they're free from the IMF. They're free from the central banks now. They're free to be as great as the president has said. He wants to return to a childlike wonder. That's an amazing thing for a president to say. And so I'm happy because I can just express the freedom of Bitcoin. And so people can see what the personification of Bitcoin, if the source code were a human being, that's what you see when I'm on stage, that I am the source code and I'm expressing what the source code is saying in terms of its freedom to be, to be. And so that's great. I think I've been living it for 20, 30 years. And now even before the white paper was written, I was already, as everybody knows, I was talking about this for many decades. So this is great. And I feel great for the people that are going to be coming and seeing these shows because they're going to be transformed.
Speaking of people being transformed by watching punk on stage, we're going to cut to this clip from Bitcoin Rants because this is the best review and analysis as Max Keiser as punk rock on stage at Bitcoin 2021, in which many corporate sort of people, many soy boys, were in attendance and hoping to turn it into a respectable affair, to remove all of the Johnny Rotten of the, let's have punk rock, but without Johnny Rotten and all those like Sid Vicious sort of people.
No, they don't want punk rock. They want punk rock consultants, right? They want to get like the KPMG consulting department on punk rock. That's what they want. They want to be able to say, well, go to a store like Bloomingdale's and say, you need punk rock section. And we have fake razor blades from pendants and sell that with fake ripped T-shirts that have fake things on it. We're the punk rock consultants from KPMG, but we're not punk rock. So we're not punk rock consultants. I'm not saying this is how you make punk rock affectations. I'm saying the source code is punk, and punk is rock, and rock is Chuck Berry and Little Richard. And it's the African semen from which all humanity arises. That's funk. That's punk. We all come from black semen. I've said that many, many times, and that is the beat. That is the source. My brothers and my sisters, okay? And rock and roll gets us in touch with that beat. And Bitcoin is the freedom to express that beat. That's what I've been saying. Now it's the cat's out of the bag. The president of El Salvador is a funky punk dude who's now, ready to go to the IMF and say, eat on this, you fucking cunt. We don't give a shit. Okay, that's fine. That's a very well articulated sentence. I totally support it.
All these people, this guy's working for Bitcoin. It's like, it was punk rock. I loved it. And also with Max. People give Max. I saw people like, I wanted to sell my coins. This was such a disgrace. Dude, what is up with people? Are you serious? That's what you get to do. That guy's been telling people that's what you get to do. When you take a chance, when you go out, when you're punk rock, when you like sleep on the floor, when you sleep in the cold, when you work like shit jobs, you work on your craft, that's what you get to do. That guy was buying Bitcoin when it was $1. And not only that, he wasn't just like front running, just keeping it a secret, like some of these hedge fund guys and like these billionaires buying it late and then not telling anybody. And then, no, he bought it and he's trying to tell people about it for the past 10 years. Okay? So that's what you get to do. That's what you get to do. When you write the songs, when you're your own man, you're a self-made man, you get to go out there and tell, fuck off, fuck you. You get to tell billionaires to fuck off. You get to tell people, I'm not selling. That's it. That's what you want. And you know what? That should be what you want. That's what I see. When I saw a good band play, a good punk rock band, I said, I want that. I want to do that. I want that. I want that release. I want to be up there. I want to be a part of something like that. That's what you should be doing. All these kids out there, all these people should be like, dude, I want that. I want to be a part of that. I want to have that freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the freedom. That's the key. That's the word. The freedom is correct. Freedom in, freedom out. You know, we were born free and we should live free. And Bitcoin is the path.
Exactly. You know, you have to do you do your own life. We do our own life. And, you know, I just don't think I actually care what, you know, I've got fuck you money. I don't care what people say. Like, I don't care. I even if you have one Satoshi, it's fuck you money, right? That you are a revolutionary. You separated state from money. If you own one Satoshi, you have fuck you money. And we see that. We see that every single day now with the response from the governments, the world bodies like the IMF and UN and people like that. We see their reaction. They're afraid of you. Like, that's the way it should be. That's the way natural law says it should be. So if you're sitting there scared in the audience, like that cuck from the block, that guy who's like, Max Keiser should never be interviewed again by any Bitcoin media. Well, meanwhile, his profile on Twitter says, like, has a whole bunch of shitcoins that he's like pumping. So like, you can make your own decision. You know, go listen to Lawrence Welk or go listen to The Clash and the Sex Pistols.
Well, freedom is knowledge, and knowledge can be messy. You know, for example, in the medicine, the knowledge was gained from vivisection and dissection and digging up, you know, corpses on the table, and with amphitheaters full of doctors and blood and guts and feces and bone marrow and brain matter. And this is where knowledge comes from. You've got to dig into the truth. And that's what Bitcoin has dug its way into the truth about fiat money, state-controlled money, central banks, central bankers. And it's ugly, you know. It's ugly in the sense that it's supporting something that's beautiful, right? So like a Francis Bacon painting on its surface is kind of ugly. But then again, it's kind of beautiful. You know, a lot of modern art people dismiss immediately as being not art, but it is art in many instances. And so the path is through darkness and through light. The path takes us through everything. And the path of Bitcoin goes through the worst entrails of societal interaction, but is burrowing a path into the truth. And you know, El Salvador was in a position to get the truth. You know, a lot of people are surrounded by truth, but they don't hear it.
Yeah. You know, again, describing the difference between that punk rock ethos and the McKinsey ethos. You look at Elon Musk, who was like, oh, I live off these carbon credits and I make so much money from them. And what is this Bitcoin mining going to do for the carbon emissions and stuff? And then look at Nayib Bukele, right? The president of El Salvador. First of all, immediately threatened by the US and IMF. Second of all, the ESG sorts like pile on saying, oh, you can't mine, it's pollutes the earth and stuff. And he's like, volcano energy. Remember, and anger can be energy. Anger can be energy. It can be power. You have power, you have energy, you have power. You have the power. This is what Bitcoin shows you. So a lot of people don't want power, right? They're afraid of power. They're afraid of having power because they don't want to decide. They want somebody to make their choices for them so that they don't have to, so that they can blame somebody when everything goes horribly wrong, their bad decisions go horribly wrong. They want bailouts. They want their house prices to keep going up if they have to keep printing money to make sure everything goes up. Like they want those sort of interventions. So that's the thing. You also have the power to relinquish your own power and give it to somebody else, like Joe Biden or the prison industrial complex or the deep state, whatever you want to give your power to, you can give your power to somebody else. But we choose not to.
No, right. On the scale of from charlatan to Satoshi, with let's say Nassim Taleb being a good example of absolute charlatan, you'd have to put Elon Musk a lot closer to Nassim Taleb than Satoshi. Clearly, he's not even at the midway point. He's down in the gutter. He's right there with feeding on garbage, which is sad, but John McAfee is the goal for a lot of these people.
Anger can be power. Anger is an energy. But another line from the song, the men at the factory are old and cunning. You don't owe nothing, so boy, get running. It's the best years of your life they want to steal. That is the most important. The best years of your life are being stolen constantly with this fiat Ponzi scheme. Think of all your student debt. Think of all the housing debt. Think of all that debt that keeps you running in place in the same spot with total high time preference. And that's why you have no power. That's why you relinquish it. That's why you ask them, here, please take my power so that, you might give me a few crumbs to get through this day.
Yeah, exactly right. They steal your youth. And what I've said also recently in the last couple of years is that Bitcoin is interesting because the millennial generation now, it looks like they could just go for 30 or 40 years without having to devolve into cynicism and decrepitude, as almost every generation before it has, because of the fiat money Ponzi scheme. And when I look at these millennials, these 20-year-olds, Jack Mallers, Nick Carter, American Hodl, these guys, they're totally riding this wave of freedom and separating state from money. And why not just take it 20, 30 years? Why stop? They're going to be actually getting political power soon because the politicians are going to be begging Bitcoiners to be bailed out because Bitcoin is the ultimate in perfect, pristine collateral that will be the only thing available to bail out these people. And so, and I'm sure they'll be fair. They'll say, look, we'll give you a few Bitcoin, but just let us write the laws from now on because you obviously don't know what you're doing.
Right. And, we're going to turn now in a moment. First, I have to read some more about from Wikipedia about the clampdown because the clampdown has obviously hit Julian Assange. And while we were at Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, we interviewed Julian Assange's dad and brother. So that's John Shipton and Gabriel Shipton. But I want to read this thing from Wikipedia about the clampdown, which, the song from The Clash, but is often called Working for the Clampdown. The word clampdown is a neat coverall term the writers adopted to define the oppressive establishment. Notably, it's more reactionary voices who were to be heard throughout the 1970s calling alarmingly for clampdowns by government and law enforcement on strikers, agitators, benefits claimants, football hooligans, punks, and other perceived threats to the social, economic, and moral well-being of the UK. The clampdown can therefore be read as a figure of dread for the Clash's generation, and the song stands as a warning to the youth to beware being part of the problem rather than of the solution. So think of all those economists and academics, cable news hosts, and Senator Warren and the likes of her, who are all like who want basically a clampdown on Bitcoin and your ability to be free.
Yeah, exactly right. So that resonates perfectly with the lyrics of that song and that era, the punk era. And, you know, the earth revolves around the sun, you know, and our galaxy revolves around in the universe, and it revolves around the metaverse. You know, everything comes around again. What goes around comes around. And this punk aesthetic has come back, and it's now Bitcoin, but it's perfected in a lot of ways, and it separates state from money. And it's going to take all the locks off from the clampdown. And people are going to come out of their jails and come out of their prisons of their mind that they've needlessly constructed. And we're going to be in Austin, Texas on July 8th, venue to be announced. But it'll be, you know, we'll start it off in the early evening and take it into the early hours of the morning. It'll be basically a hangout. I'll do my raging for 30 or 40 minutes and do some special guests. I was talking to one of our co-organizers of this, and he said, look, it's got to have a vibe of a mosh pit.
Pogo and gob.
Yeah, pogo and gob. Pogo and gob. Bring your pogo, bring your gob. It's going to be a mosh pit. I'm going to throw myself off the stage. Hopefully people will catch me, or I'll end up in the local Austin hospital. But I'll still be free. I'll be in a cast, but my mind will be free, what's left of it. Anyway, we're going to see a video. We're going
to throw to a video here, or interview with the Shiptons, brought to you by our sponsor, thesunexchange.com/splash. Yeah, splash. Yeah. Orange pill. thesunexchange.com/orange pill. It's relevant to this interview, actually, because solar power does come up in this. Here's our interview.
All righty, we're back. Orange Pill Podcast special interview segment with the father and half brother of Julian Assange, John and Gabriel. Welcome.
Hi.
Now, this is a long time coming, John. We've been chatting on and off for many, many years. You've been a follower of our shows for many years in Australia, where we have a big following. So it's great to finally get to talk to you in person here at Bitcoin Miami.
Thank you, Max. It's a pleasure to be here. And Stacy and I met at outside George Galloway's recording studio some years ago, and Stacy promised one day.
Yeah.
Here it is.
I did. I said that. Do you come with your own crew of FBI agents following you around there?
No.
Yes, who is this coterie of armed men following us? Should we be concerned? No.
I don't think. I think they've got a lot of problems here, more concerned than Gabriel and me. You know.
Fair enough.
Oh, they're here for us. Sorry. Okay. If you see us being pulled off, we'll be back momentarily. Right. So, of course, Max and I have been in the Bitcoin space since 2011. Julian was earlier, even in the Bitcoin space, when he got deplatformed, essentially, demonetized from the Visa and MasterCard system. So you're kind of here appealing to the Bitcoin community. Like, here's a Bitcoiner in trouble, part of the imperial might of the American empire, cracking down on him. So what do you have to say to the Bitcoin community?
Oh, there's a sort of like a natural affiliation between Julian and the Bitcoin community. I'd just like to point out also that there's a whole strata of genius, which we could include Max and Stacy, that was created in the Western nations from Aaron to Julian, to Ola Binay, to the people who started and ran Pirate Bay, to Bram Cohen. That strata of genius seems to have been unable to be absorbed by the states that they're in, and that's a primary concern. And similarly, the states that with Bitcoin have been unable to adopt and adapt to this new phenomenon that the internet and intellect of Satoshi has created.
Right, you mentioned Aaron, Aaron Schwartz.
Yes,
right.
yes.
So that's an interesting point in that throughout history, there have been individuals who have bucked the system. Martin Luther was going after the Catholic Church. Copernicus rewrote the laws of the universe. Julian Assange redefined journalism. And they always come up against the state at some point. But Bitcoin is unconfiscatable, and it is a true challenge to the state. And the state really seems to start to get nervous. We see this around the world right now, where the idea that the people can have unconfiscatable property is really undermining their abilities on the state level. Do you see that, or is that an overstatement of what's happening?
Well, I see that, but I'm I'm pre-boomer, so all of these things are like going to the circus. They're really fascinating events, but they're not my zeitgeist. Whereas Gabriel and yourself, that's your zeitgeist. So it's better to Gabriel address that.
Okay, Gabriel, the idea is that are these states now aware that they've found a foe in Bitcoin that is censorship proof, unconfiscatable? Are we seeing the final chapter or a significant chapter in a long-running conflict between freedom-loving, quote-unquote, geniuses and the state?
Yeah, I think, Bitcoin and crypto. I think one of Julian's ideas was like Bitcoin and cryptography will grow and become more adopted, and eventually there will be this sort of feedback loop between the state and cryptography and Bitcoin, and that the state will eventually have to change and sort of adapt to this these cryptographic and the ideas of Bitcoin. So fiat money will eventually have to change and adapt, and as Bitcoin becomes adopted by more and more people, I think we'll just see that more and more.
Now, our paths crossed in a meaningful way, I would say, early on, in the earliest days of Julian's incarceration, when he was holding up at an embassy. There was a lot of conversation between John Perry Barlow, who's really an internet freedom fighter, Julian, and Satoshi himself, commenting on the fact that the Visa, MasterCard, PayPal were censoring contributions to Julian Assange. And there was some talk about, if we align ourselves with this case right now, it's so high profile that it may be too much for Bitcoin to take on at that time. Were you aware of that conversation going on at that time? And can you comment on it?
No, I wasn't aware of that conversation at that period of time. But I looked into obviously the history of it, and that's probably late 2010 when they first started. That conversation started kicking off, and then WikiLeaks, I think, sort of waited around 6 months, and Bitcoin sort of further developed, and then WikiLeaks adopted it as its main source of basically donations and its operating currency. And so they were able to keep publishing that way, and it was, Bitcoin survived, WikiLeaks survived, and it's really sort of, I think, the first use case of the, Bitcoin as sort of uncensorable freedom of speech money that couldn't be, these are the most powerful states in the world, and they couldn't shut it down. So it was a great example to everybody that Bitcoin had this power to sort of like I was saying, create that feedback loop where Bitcoin will end up influencing how the states act, just like WikiLeaks influenced how the states act.
And Jason Furman, who was on the Council of Economic Advisors to Obama, just recently in the past week or two, said that he wishes that Obama had crushed Bitcoin in the early days, that it's too late now. So it was on their radar, and I guess they thought they could have crushed it. Perhaps they could have. But, since Trump and what we have here in the United States is the Trump derangement syndrome, you see the typical allies of somebody like Julian Assange's case in the liberal left American population has gone like, we love the FBI, we love the CIA, we love, like, they're hosts, like CIA agents are hosts of MSNBC shows. Like, so has that made your activism for Julian, like, has that made it more difficult? Because there is an authoritarian streak now in the left wing of America where you would typically find support for a case like this.
We get support from the civil rights movement. Their concerns are our concerns because they have to be able to talk about things, so there's similar concerns. Also, we get support from the legal fraternity because all America's got that's gold outside of the United States, which we see, the Bill of Rights, very important, and that real glittering gold, the First Amendment. So they want to defend that. They don't want it to go. Of course, the actions against Julian indicate that the CIA and, let's say, the security state wants to truncate the First Amendment to the extent that everybody in publishing is fearful of commenting upon classified national security information so that they can continue to do what they're doing, which of course what they're doing is brought the United States to ruin. It's actual. They've brought the place to ruin. However, they don't want that sort of comment to appear.
And yet, like, say the MSNBC source would they still hail Daniel Ellsberg as a hero. And yet Daniel Ellsberg himself says Julian has done even more. He's more of a hero than what he did.
Gabriel and I speak to Daniel on Zoom. He says he's warm and says, I love Julian. Now, in the community that I come from, you say, well, I feel warmly, but to see a 90-year-old man say, I love Julian, is really refreshing, and particularly if somebody of the enormous stature of Daniel Ellsberg, and this is one of the great creations of the United States, that courage and intellect in one man.
So they're not trying to or were they going to charge him with treason? Like, he's not an American citizen, right? Like, there was some notion that they were going to try him for treason or something like that.
They principally have three things which they've got going for them. One is that they've re-evaluated and renegotiated all of the extradition treaties with every nation in the world that would do so to the advantage of the United States. The second one is the extrajudicial application of extraterritorial laws and what we call judicial kidnapping. The nickname of William Barr, your previous Department of Justice head Attorney General, his nickname was the Snatcher. He earned that nickname under H.W. Bush, as is able to go around the world manipulating extradition treaties to extrajudicially kidnap people, judicially kidnap people and bring them to the United States, particularly if they have something they want. Now, for example, they want the secrets of Huawei.
Yeah.
So they kidnap the CEO of Huawei. There's lots of examples. There's Mike Lynch, an IT genius in England, who is under threat of extradition they want his secrets of of course, it's never put to us in that way, but we can see it if we look a little. He sold his company Antimony to HP for $8 billion, and then HP had to resell it for like 600 million, so that they want the 7 billion back.
You know, what's particularly galling about the activities of the intelligence agencies in the U.S. and the mainstream media, the extradition and the outright propaganda, is it shows that in America, there's a loss of confidence, a loss of self-confidence. We no longer believe in ourselves or the founding documents anymore. Nobody in America believes in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. They routinely trash it. And this is why Julian's incarceration, it's absolutely heartbreaking for anyone who believes in America, because this is a situation where if there were true Americans and patriots in the power in the United States, they would be advocating for Julian's immediate release. But because we have none anymore, it's so heartbreaking for someone like myself, whose family goes back 300 years to this country, to see the absolute abdication of self-confidence. It's so pathetic and sad. And I just can't imagine any recovery from this. You know, I don't see how America comes back from this. Here's a hero for the First Amendment that they're letting twist in the wind. How do we come back from this? It's so sad to hear this, so sad.
Well, we believe in the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. Everybody outside the United States envies these great, well, what do you call civilizational gold, you know. We envy it, we want it. There's agitation in Australia every election for a First Amendment and a Bill of Rights. Why this country abandon such wonderful things, I don't know.
What about Australia? Because what are they advocating for their citizen? What's happening with the government there?
Well, it's really, you know, not really. I don't like to criticize my country outside of, you know, if I'm home, I sort of give them a stick. But
But this is Orange Pill Podcast. We could do that. Max could do it on your behalf.
So our government is what you call an ally of the United States, but what you might say, you know, between us, without these cameras going, you might say is a vassal.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Five Eyes. Was Australia, U.S., I think it's Canada.
New Zealand might be kicked out though, right? Because of China, their relationship with China.
25% of their income, 25% of their income comes from China. Australia has had benefits decade after decade from China. And then we turn around and fart in their face. It's appalling behavior.
So, of course, after Julian came Edward Snowden, who seemed to have been inspired by what Julian did. And he dumped quite a lot of information. You know, what do you feel like how old were you when this happened? Because I guess you look younger than Julian.
Yes, you know, when the original in 2010, you know, I was 28, so
Thank you.
Yeah, when those leaks came out and all that was going on, so and then, you know, seeing that progress to Edward Snowden. But I think, you know, it's interesting that, you know, to watch the way that you know, WikiLeaks released things and sort of shamed the media to cooperate with them and report on all these documents, and also making all the documents like sort of crowdsourcing the reportage of all these documents, because the trove was so big. But then you look down the track, you know, after Julian started to suffer all these attacks, you know, all these FUD attacks, all these regulatory attacks, you know, cases all around the world, you know, negative press, negative media, lots of smears. And then you fast forward to, say, the Snowden leaks, where it was a different sort of release. Like, it was released through a media organization. And so, we still don't know a lot about the Snowden leaks. And I think, in 2018, a story came out from The Intercept about the Snowden leaks, about how the NSA were monitoring the blockchain. And that's 4 or 5 years after the actual release that we're finding out that the NSA was looking at the blockchain. So I think that's an interesting phenomena that, after WikiLeaks, it's the sort of leaks have sort of, been funneled into this, the same sort of media system.
Yeah.
Right, and we're still, suffering from this lack of a fourth estate, as it's called, or investigative journalism. As recently now, through this COVID crisis and this Freedom of Information Act relating to Dr. Fauci's emails and things going back just recently, the lack of transparency is setting up for this true corporatism in America, this neo-fascism, where you have very little accountability in the corporate front. And this is what Edward Snowden and Julian Assange have been trying to fight for, to apply that necessary corrective or balancing of power. And to get back to Bitcoin, it's that decentralization of power that it creates an effective form of governance in the U.S., and that's been corrupted by centralization by the corporate interests and the vilification of the whistleblower, the vilification of the journalist, the vilification of the investigative journalist. And the country is suffering as a result of it. Australia is suffering as a result of it. New Zealand is suffering. Canada is suffering. These countries are suffering horribly because of the absence of true investigative journalism. And the people, however, are so heavily propagandized to believe that corporations are there for their good and take this pill, don't question Big Brother. Are we heading into a dystopian nightmare? Or that has been thought, that was imagined by 1984 or Brave New World or any of these other novels.
The Panopticon.
The Panopticon of surveillance. Or do you see a brighter path, John?
Yes, I see, because we're here with you and that we understand that distributed systems are the secret to a growth that's outside of centralized state power. So the distributed system of cryptographics, the distributed system of podcasts, the distributed system of having solar on your roof that generates electricity and generates hot water, and you can monitor your use through one of these things so that you can, rather than using a credit card to take up the slack, you can monitor, so you can reduce your use to your income, which is a beautiful thing. And whereas now you don't know how much you've used. The system is automatically creates an account which comes out of your bank account, so you have no way of actually monitoring your use and supplying your own use. Texas, for example, or here, these places. Let's say Australia, I don't know well here. Australia for renewable energies is gold. So our place has solar on the roof. Well, we sold it to finance these trips, but used to have solar on the roof, hot water, and with a little gas heater that measures from the outlet. So it measures heat from the outlet. So it only turns on when necessary. Beautiful things.
Right, and to that point, getting back to Bitcoin, there's a big conversation about energy usage, and the propaganda networks are saying it's wasting energy, which is directly in contradiction to the fact that it repurposes wasted energy, and a third of all this energy powered around the world is wasted, and it converts it into unconfiscatable wealth. It's the complete opposite.
Fabulous,
right?
It's fabulous. And can I just quickly add to that those bankers standing in front of you saying that all of their ledgers are held where? By what? Electrons and electricity. It's just grotesque.
Yeah, exactly. So by getting rid of the central banking system, and replacing it with Bitcoin and the banking system, the overall, as you point out, the overall energy usage in the world falls dramatically. That's where you save your energy. That's where you get a carbon pickup in emissions and et cetera. So John, you characterize yourself as pre-boomer.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us back a little bit. What were you doing? How did you get your start? Were you a philosophy major or what?
No, just a pathological curiosity. But what I mean by pre-boomer is that we measure things on policy. For example, we would have a policy on housing, a policy on wages, a policy on distribution, a policy on environmental destruction back then, like that, until the Club of Rome, that we would create policies, put the intellect into how, for example, death duties. So death duties, of course, death is enough duty, so nobody wants to pay to die. Okay, well, the actual thing is equality between the generations. You want equality between the generations. How do you do that? Well, you have distribution of capital upon the person no longer needing that capital.
I see. So you're trying to basically distinguish yourselves from the boomers who are kind of sucked up everything. They're very unequal.
Oh, no, I don't mean, I'm just saying that after the war, there's just an immense, you can see it, immense burst of energy. So they created the United Nations. They created the Conventions of Asylum. They created the Universal Declaration of Independence. They created bodies which will create housing in the United States, other Western.
So these organizations that you described, they begin life with great purpose, and then over time, seemingly, they become more centralized, and the policies become more geared toward, let's call it a corporate agenda, broadly speaking. And so my question is it possible to put in these supernatural national organizations or NGOs, non-government organizations, that are impactful, that are beneficial? Because at this point in time, from my point of view, it would seem almost impossible. But what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's possible, because with this thing, it's gold. You know, it has two sides to it. It's Janus' head. I can look up how to do something, and I can gather together I understand that I don't need dollars to do it. Okay, I can use crypto or whatever. Also, the tools to do it, the relationships to do it, I can create them through that, and then could do face-to-face work. So it's possible. It's here now. All of these people, everybody here doing the technical work, would have been impossible 10 years ago. So it's possible, and it's demonstrated to us daily that it is possible.
So, also at this conference, we have Ross Ulbricht's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, is here. And you see that you're in a similar situation, as that a family member's situation has forced you to become an activist in a way. It's not an easy job. You're both going up against a very powerful state, the empire essentially of the world, right? So what can people do to help you right now? What is your immediate goal? Like for Lynn Ulbricht, she could only hope for a presidential pardon at this moment. So that's what she's trying to get. Like, what are you trying to get right now, or in the long term, like the short term and then the long term?
Could we chop the question in two? Gabriel answer one, and I answer the other bit. So,
well, I think in the short, like we're here and we're trying to sort of, prepare the ground for, support to be found and to really pressure the US DOJ here to make them feel awkward about this prosecution. and pressure them to, just drop the charges, basically. So we're, asking people to call the DOJ, to call their representatives, to, just pressure the DOJ, pressure the government, pressure Congress, and yeah, that's sort of one of the main calls that we're doing as we travel. We're traveling around the country at the moment, so we'll do 15 cities, and each place we'll ask these people to pressure their representatives and call the US DOJ directly to pressure Merrick Garland to drop the case.
The second part is this, that the United States has a different outlook after Trump and wants to reinstitute the diplomatic skills of the United States that apparently George Kennan started and then grew up until Kissinger. So this mess, this Western worldwide mess of the persecution of Julian Assange and the truncation in the United States of the First Amendment and the reduction of the standing of the United States do not enable those diplomats of the United States like Blinken and the Department of State, do not enable them to make decent negotiations. You see, the other day, Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, was being interviewed by the BBC. The lady said, press freedom in Azerbaijan, what about that, you persecuting journalists? He immediately turned around and dropped the Assange bomb, and it blew up. The Chinese do the same.
Yep.
They just keep dropping the Assange bomb. This has to be fixed, this mess. If there's another court case, the entire participation from Richard Grenell, the United States ambassador to Germany, involvement in Sheldon Adelson and the CIA spying on Julian, will just come up and raise like a stinking cloud,
Look, it takes a long time to build a reputation, and you can lose it quickly. The United States spent 240 years building a reputation. They're in the process of losing it, and you can't get it back. You can't get it back. It's sad, sad. But anyway, thanks so much for coming on the Orange Pill Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, look at all this firepower I got. But not only do I have these Bitcoin grenades, right? But, I also have a new addition to my Bitcoin arsenal. I have now a third money gun to add to my collection. So I'm like the Tony Montana. Say hello to my little friend. You know what I'm saying?
That one doesn't have money in it.
No. That one is for... What's this one? You can play a song like Mary Had a Little Lamb on this or something. Mary had...
This is going to be fun to
This one's out of
go
bounds.
around with that.
Okay. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Her fleece was white as snow.
So before we get to the part, I want to talk about volcano bonds. So I want to first, however, go to this ad from our sponsor, the sunexchange.com, who are, of course, solar punk AF, right? They're solar punk. They go with the cypherpunks, the punks, all of the punks. They're part of the punk movement and monetizing sunshine every day. So here's the ad from them.
SunExchange is the world's first peer-to-peer solar leasing platform. Earn Bitcoin solar power in communities in Africa and be part of the new world economy. Visit thesunexchange.com/orange pill and start monetizing sunshine today.
Right. Again. So Max, thesunexchange.com/orange pill, they're solutions oriented. Everybody says, oh, we don't want to, give capital to Africa. Oh, we don't want to help them with their electric grid. And they just built a company, went out and did it, right? They started deploying solar panels across Africa, Southern Africa, on top of schools and shops and, agricultural centers, things like that. They just did it. People said they couldn't, they did it. That is the same sort of thing when the IMF is like threatening El Salvador, saying if you have Bitcoin, well, you've got $1 billion you're about to borrow from us. And $1 billion is nothing, right, in the Bitcoin community. And Max came up with the idea of volcano bonds. Explain what that is.
Right. Well, they have this IMF debt. It's roughly $1 billion. And so they also have mining against their volcanic energy that will be generating lots of revenue. So therefore, it's very easy to sell $1 billion worth of Bitcoin mining volcano bonds, and the coupon would be, or interest rate would be, very attractive. If it's like 5 or 6%, that would place it as one of the highest yielding bonds available around the world today. I mean, it's not that hard to do, and you could do it for a lot more than $1 billion worth of volcano bonds. But it's an asset-backed bond. It's a collateralized asset-backed bond. And this is on Wall Street. This is the bread and butter business of Wall Street. And they do hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars worth of these types of structures and products every single year. And so like Mike Novogratz, who's basically an investment banker in the Bitcoin space, he's kind of like what Simon Dixon does. Simon Dixon is an investment banker in Bitcoin. He's been really since 2011. And then about 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, Mike Novogratz came around, and he does the similar thing here in the United States. And so this should be a bread and butter business to them. They could literally put this deal together in less than a week and have it done and dusted. Take that $1 billion, pay off the IMF loan, just say, here you go, here's your $1 billion. Leave us alone. We don't need you anymore. Thank you. Goodbye. And get out from underneath the IMF. Can other countries in Latin America do the exact same thing? Yeah, absolutely. Just plug in your volcano to Bitcoin mining, float some bonds on Wall Street. The appetite for a bond like this with let's say a 5 or 6% interest rate or coupon is literally in the $1 trillion level. So in the case of El Salvador, I believe their economy is roughly $30 to $40 billion in total. That's their entire GDP of the entire country. They could recapitalize the entire country of El Salvador selling volcano bonds in less than 3 months if they were interested in, let's say, refinancing the entire country. I don't know what El Salvador pays for its sovereign debt. I'm sure it's not all that great, but whatever it is, they could reduce it by simply restructuring and recapitalizing with these volcano bonds, and they would lower their cost of debt. Now they're estimated to make about $1 billion a year savings in remittances. You could save all the interest payment on your IMF loan, get out underneath from that. And I mean, this country's GDP, El Salvador, could literally go up 5, 6, 7x in the next 10 years.
The most fortunate timing of this as well is that the Chinese miners are boku wealthy and are looking for a new home that is also environmentally sustainable, like no carbon emissions. Obviously, there's carbon emissions when the volcano blows, but until then, it's all hunky
Well, the
dory.
volcano blowing is going to happen regardless, right?
Yeah,
There's
I
no
know.
way
That's
to
what I'm
stop
joking.
the volcano from blowing. But it's energy that throughout the year is generating, like in Iceland, they have geothermal energy from the geothermal structure of the tectonic plates that are available in Iceland, and they export that energy in the form of aluminum smelting. So aluminum smelting is a very energy intensive industry. That's why in Iceland they got into aluminum smelting, and all the energy used to smelt aluminum is coming from geothermal. It's effectively zero cost. And so it's in the form of aluminum that they then export. So they capture that energy. So instead of smelting aluminum, you can create Bitcoin. And then you have Bitcoin, the hardest money ever in history. And you now have an economy. It's such an enormous situation. The whole economy is going to improve so dramatically in the whole region. Obviously, real estate prices there are going to go up incredibly. For better or worse. I mean, that's just what happens when you have a great economy just expanding at a rate that we're going to see in El Salvador.
I'll just have you know that I put the Novogratz team in touch. They reached out and were asking about this volcano bond. And I put them in touch with Naib's people because I have his advisor's email address and phone number. So, our friend Jose Rodriguez from Talentland is working with them right now. Naib might speak at Talentland. Put us in touch. So, it's a whole community of orange-pilled people working together to improve the world and the future and just getting things done. This is the DIY punk rock way. So you just do it. Like, there's nobody, like the G7 can meet and do all their stuff and pretend to, know what's best for us here on the Orange Pill podcast, but we're just going to do it. And speaking of these world bodies like the G7, the IMF, and all these people like Christine Lagarde at the ECB, remember she talked about the exit valve that Bitcoin offers, and that this is, that we must have a clampdown on that. Like, she's one of the clampdown people working for the clampdown, right? Well, here's a good quote from Nick Bhatia, who wrote an article about El Salvador and their situation that proves that the nature of the exit valve, that now El Salvador, because of Max's tweets about a volcano bond, he has power. The nation of El Salvador and the people of El Salvador, now, I think it's 6 million people, now have power when standing up against the might of the IMF. He wrote that century-old exploits by American fruit conglomerates, Western-sponsored military coups, and IMF loan sharking have shaped a Latin American distrust of the dollar system. Now, their leaders and citizens are realizing that there is an exit.
So true. And that reference to fruit conglomerates, I mean, this is where we get the phrase banana republic, because American fruit producers, Chiquita being one of the biggest, and they were previously called American Fruit or something like that. They had to rebrand because their reputation was getting severely tarnished. Nevertheless, our friend John Perkins, who wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, details how IMF and other agencies would send guys in to intimidate presidents and leaders in these countries to accept IMF loans and big bank, Wall Street bank loans, as a way of tyrannizing and colonizing these territories. This whole area has been an American colony now for, going all the way back really to, I think, the
Monroe Doctrine.
The Monroe Doctrine. Yes, exactly. And when you look at some of the ancillary impact of this, like gang warfare, MS-13, it's the most violent gang in the world. Where did it start? It started in Los Angeles prisons. Because of the economic hardships that are manufactured by these world organizations and banks to steal money from these regions in the American empire. And empires collapsed. The British Empire collapsed, and all empires collapse. And the American empire of debt is collapsing.
So let's tie all of these together on this final headline here, because you talked about stealing money, stealing time, and how we're fighting back from that. Because not only has inflation just been reported as 5% officially, and they understate it. So even if they're stating it officially as now being 5%, that means it's like 12, 13%, right? But taxes are going up to pay for all of those bonds issued to basically give money to BlackRock to manage and buy ETFs for themselves, buy up all the property in America, all the QE, all these reverse repos, all of that trillions of dollars. Obviously, you must, the people are starting to get, they obviously don't have to pay for it because with their shitcoin, they could just print it. But why they're increasing taxes is because they know people are getting unrestful about this, and they know there's going to be dissent about the taxes. So they have to have a ferocity, an excuse to start imprisoning people, like to start like cracking down on people. If like you have to obey, you have to obey, you have to obey. That's what I think. But one of the things they're always saying about like Bitcoin, the likes of Senator Warren or the likes of Aaron Ross Sorkin on CNBC, they'll say that oh, it's carbon emissions, blah, blah, blah. We've already covered that. But they also say it's all sorts of money laundering and ransomware and stuff like that. Aaron Ross Sorkin just this past week on CNBC did a whole thing about ransomware and that we need to get rid of Bitcoin. We need to clamp down. We need the clampdown in order to stop the ransomware. So here's a headline about all that social justice, all that good the government did, right? Remember, enhance unemployment benefits, all this good stuff for all these people of America. We love Americans, our government tells us. Half of the pandemic's unemployment money may have been stolen. Of that half that was stolen, and for which they're going to tax us more, we didn't get any unemployment benefits. We didn't get any PPP. We didn't get any stimulus. We got nothing of that. But our taxes will have to go up. Half of this money was stolen. And then of that, 70% has gone overseas, mostly to Nigeria. So it was just stolen right from us with the Treasury, the IRS, sending these checks to these people to be stolen. Like, they're the ones that facilitated this crime. They're the ones that did this. Now we have to pay through inflation and through taxation.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. It's an amazing story. It's like the story about the $1 trillion worth of $100 bills on shrink wrapped onto pallets that was dropped into Iraq that went missing. It's about Donald Rumsfeld saying just before 9/11 that the Pentagon was missing $1 trillion and as a separate incident. Here they printed trillions of dollars and half of it's gone overseas. It's been stolen. And when the cost of printing money is nothing, you don't really care. You just run the printing presses. With Bitcoin, there's a cost. It's called proof of work. And that's why it's valuable and it's scarce. It's absolutely scarce. There's 21 million in total that will ever exist. And so people treat it as if it's valuable, and they should, because it's the most valuable commodity ever in the history of humanity. But when you have people in charge who they have no accountability, and the cost of floating trillions of dollars with the fiat nonsense is zero, and you get to front run it by buying assets that go up in value, that increase your net worth, that you can then use as collateral to borrow at 0% because interest rates are zero, because the central bank says there's no inflation, so they have to keep printing, right? So it's a fraud. It's a huge fraud.
And how did they get away with the fraud? What was the diversion? The clampdown, the lockdown, right? They locked us all down. It's an emergency. Here, like throwing money all over the place. I've got piles of money over there, fake money, that I should just get up and go and get it and throw it at the screen. But
yeah,
I think you understand. I think you can imagine it, right?
What's funny when you say that, though, is that you mentioned that a preponderant portion went to Nigeria. And does that mean that those fake Nigerian emails from princes in Nigeria asking for money work?
They obviously worked with our treasury.
Somebody sent the Treasury in the United States a bogus email somewhere from Nigeria saying that their brother, the prince, needed $500 million because they lost it on their way to the airport. And the U.S. Treasury, somebody in the U.S. Treasury wired $500 million to some anonymous person in Nigeria. That's not somebody we want running the country.
I think it's kind of hysterical. I mean, I've got fuck you money, so I don't really care that the inflation is destroying everything and my purchasing power, if I had any dollars, I just choose not to, because I see that they're doing dumb stuff like this. And good on those Nigerians for, managing to scam the Treasury, because, it would have been stolen by JP Morgan otherwise. So it might as well be Nigeria, because they're doing interesting stuff there with Bitcoin, and, they could use it more than Jamie Dimon, right?
Yeah, I don't mind. Nigerians are fine people. And, instead of having to go through the hassle of writing a check and sending it to an anonymous Nigerian somewhere in Nigeria, my government has decided to print up trillions of dollars and send it to anonymous people in Nigeria.
That's brilliant. And, when you just talked about something there that reminded me that David DeGraw was the one. David DeGraw did that research, which was covered widely, which was that that the Donald Rumsfeld missing the trillions of dollars, announced the missing trillions of dollars from the Pentagon. And speaking of rock and roll, how rock and roll is this? David DeGraw's uncle was in a band with my father.
What?
Isn't that bizarre?
That is.
Yeah, when they were teenagers.
Wow. What kind of band?
I don't think it was punk rock because they were like kind of Catholic,
Like
Irish
a
Catholic
skiffle
kids.
band, like the Beatles?
Yeah, probably even more wholesome than that. They were Catholic school
Oh,
teenagers.
right. So it was like singing some Gregorian chants.
Yeah, well, back then the services were in Latin. So maybe they were singing in Latin. Who knows?
Yeah, Gregorian chants with a nice backbeat.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because we had known David DeGraw for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his work on Occupy Wall Street. We had interviewed him quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow when he moved back east from Los Angeles, he mentioned that where he lived, and it's where my father had lived. And I was like, oh. And then and I didn't really connect it until this guy with the same last name, DeGraw, was on my uncle's Facebook page. And I was like, and I emailed David DeGraw and I said, do you know this guy? And he's like, yeah, he's my uncle. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Like, so we had known him for 10 years before we even knew that our fathers were in a band, or his uncle and my father were in a band together. So how
cool.
punk rock is that?
Yeah, I like it. That's nice. You know, it's all connected. We're all part of the same Ummah, the same, Gaia.
The diaspora.
One living, breathing organism. It's all the same. Rocks, trees, people, animals, the universe. It's just all inhaling and exhaling, and together we're. Conspiracy is that we're breathing together. Co-spirating. We're breathing in, out, in, out.
That's why, by the way, I should mention as we exit this episode that the reason why I'm wearing my fur hat in the middle of the summer, even though it's 90 degrees out, is that we bought it during the inflation in Russia, for a very good price.
Yeah.
So this has held its value and doubled in price in rubles.
Yeah.
And also in dollars. But speaking of that Ummah, the Finnic people were the first people in Moscow, modern day Moscow, a couple thousand years ago. And their first czar was also Finnic. So I'm saying.
You call Finnish people Finnic?
They were a Finnic tribe.
Really? You don't call them Finnish. You call them Finnic.
They were, at that time, they were called Finnic. You know how like things evolve, right? Bitcoin used to be something back 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's magic internet money and people were spending it and buying things with it and dropping tens of thousands in faucets and stuff like that because that's what it was back then. That's what we thought it was. That's what we called it. And then by now, nobody wants to freaking spend it. Our low time preference, we're all hoarding. We're selling all our high time preference cheap goods in order to stack more sats. Like this is the way things evolve.
And that's the last thing of value that you have is that hat.
It just makes me feel like I have some ownership of, it is my destiny to reclaim Moscow for the Finnish people.
Oh, boy. Oh, this could open a can of worms right now. So, okay, we're going to go to war and that's fine.
No. I'm going to offer, it'll be a Bitcoin, Bitcoin will bring peace. It'll have to be something with peace.
Yeah, it's peaceful, so, well, the wave is going to go global. So it starts in El Salvador and it's going to cover the globe and just, it'll just cover the globe. That's all there is to it. I said in January on Daniela Camboni's show that 2021 would be the year a nation state goes Bitcoin.
Yes.
And at the time people were like, oh man, that's not going to happen for years and years. It happened within 6 months. And so things happen fast. When I was in the internet days, building a company, they used to talk about internet time, about how fast things move in the internet time. Bitcoin time is light years faster than internet time, and it's getting faster.
Let fury have the hour. Anger can be power. Remember that.
Or as one man once said, funk can sit for hours and never go sour.